Welcome back to Screen Watch, the series where we hang out and talk about everything in the world of video game movies and video game TV shows. If you like video games and you watch movies, then you're my type of people and you're in the right spot. I'm your host, Patty Pixel, and this week our spotlight story is the Witcher franchise and what the future of it looks like if it stays with Netflix, along with some thoughts on the news on the upcoming Season 4 and the Rats movie spin-off. Later in our news roundup, we're going to be talking about the God of War TV series being developed for Amazon, and why I think it will almost certainly be good if they get one thing right. Also, the Splinter Cell TV series is about to release, and I have some thoughts on that, and it seems the rest of the internet does too. So stick around on this week's episode of Screen Watch because we have a lot to cover. Our spotlight story is the Witcher franchise and the future of it over at Netflix. Thoughts on Season 4 and 5 happening, Liam's Hemsworth, and the new Rats movie spin-off. We'll start off with the elephant in the room, Liam Hemsworth.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
The guy who is best known for being the little brother of Thor, I guess, really. That's the only reason I really know who he is, and I'm pretty sure that's the only reason a lot of people know who he is. Now, I'm not saying that he's a bad actor or anything, and I'm not saying that being a highly known actor is needed for the role. I actually would prefer an unknown play most lead parts in movies. That's just for me, because it helps with me with my immersion and the suspension of belief. But that being said, when you come off as someone as amazing as Henry Cavill, who fit the role quite well, I think, and you give us Liam Hemsworth as his replacement, you can't expect good reaction from the fans or the general public. This guy's about to get scorched earth going on the internet. My first thought is, can he carry the show? Who knows, but all that being said, that's kind of old news, right? We already know he's our new Witcher, and I don't really care too much about Season 4 and 5 because we know that's the end of it. So what I want to talk about and what I want to focus on is the Witcher franchise being owned by Netflix and where that leaves the future of the IP after all of this. Netflix has been heavily criticized for taking a lot of the video game adaptations that they own the film rights to and doing whatever they want with them. Some for the better, some for the worse. Shows like Arcane did a fantastic job of taking existing lore and crafting their own stories around it, but many others like Castlevania and Devil May Cry have been called out rightfully for their unfaithful adaptations of the fucking source material and not respecting the lores or characters. In my opinion, none of these were horribly bad shows, but they certainly weren't great by any measure. I will say the first season of Castlevania was pretty amazing, and then it kind of just slowly went downhill after that consistently. The problem with The Witcher show has been the same thing that plagues many other video game adaptations: no respect for the source material. In the case of The Witcher, this is especially true. The Witcher series comes from books popularized globally by a video game. We all know that. Now, if you look at those books, they aren't particularly short. Many of those books are composed of a large amount of short stories that all could easily be adapted into their own season story arc. But instead of doing that, Netflix wants to take the general idea of The Witcher and the base lore and then just do whatever they want with it and do whatever they want with the stories and adapt them in any which way they like. They've twisted them around so much that they weren't even the same anymore. Completely changing characters, bringing in new characters that had no business even existing, swapping and changing around storylines to fit their own personal biases and views of the writers. With something like The Witcher, you didn't even need to get creative. You just had to stay respectful to the source material and adapt the stories as they were told in the books. The video games managed to do this really well, even though a lot of the stories in The Witcher 3 especially were completely new and made up by the dev team. They felt like they belonged in the world of The Witcher, and like they could have been straight out of the books. The tone and everything matched perfectly. This Frankenstein of a show they've made is just so all over the place and silly that it doesn't really have that many redeeming qualities, and it's not the love letter to the franchise that it should have been, especially with someone like Henry Cavill at the helm who loves and has respect for the property being the lead actor. It should have been something amazing, and instead it was, well, what it was. Which brings us back to my point. Netflix needs to pick teams that will be faithful to the source material and keep their own thoughts and biases and anything like that out of the scripts and filming. These properties became popular for a reason, and you trying to bastardize them or put your own spin on it to the point it changes the core point of the story or characters is almost never going to be a good idea. That being said, Netflix's upcoming project, The Rats, A Witcher Tale, is an original creation by Netflix. Why? Not based on any of Andrzej Sapkowski's Witcher books. It centers on a group of teenage outlaws known as the Rats, who were introduced in the final season of The Witcher, Season 3. The film's expected to serve as a prequel, exploring their backstory prior to meeting Ciri. Initially, this was conceived as like a prequel series, and it was supposed to be like a whole, 12 episode whatever arc, and then they wrapped up in early 2023, and things looked like shit, and they had a bunch of internal issues, so consequently, Netflix just decided to turn it into a standalone film rather than a series. So that doesn't bode well for whatever's going to be on the screen at the time. So the film's now slated for release on Netflix alongside with season 4. And my only question is why? Who asked for this? Honestly, why does this shit keep happening? I don't understand, especially with the ratings going down and down the further they deviated from the stories. Season 2, I actually think was better than season 1 because they didn't do as much of the time skipping, but the amount of, like, I don't know what other word to use, bastardization of the story and the source material just got worse and worse as the seasons went. They don't need to write anything. The scripts are already there. Just open the fucking books and read the lines on the page. I don't get why everyone at Netflix is such a donkey. I don't see this going really well, and I can't see why Netflix doesn't have an understanding of this yet. The animated movies, I will say, that they've done for The Witcher are decent, even though they still decided to flip around a lot of the source material and the stories from what they were based from. They were decent and felt faithful to the IP. But the live action stuff, I don't know. They just need to clean up the mess, honestly. I honestly feel like they should have just scrapped season 4 and season 5, just waited a few years, got someone that was going to write something well and just adapted from the book well, and just done that and waited a few years and started fresh. Maybe in future episodes, I guess we'll take a full deep dive into the Netflix versus The Witcher once, season 4 and 5 are out, and we can take a look back at the entire thing in its entirety. But for now, I know I'm going to miss my boy Henry, and even though the show was messy, it did have some redeeming qualities. So I don't know. What do you guys think of the Witcher show in general? What are your hopes for the future of the franchise as far as film rights moving forward after these final seasons drop? And what do you think of all of it in the beginning? I want to point out that, like I said, here's a few of the Witcher books right here. Okay, this is all Netflix has to do to make a good Witcher story. Find a good screenwriter, take one of these books, go like this, and then just start reading the lines on the page. That's it. That's all you have to do. You want to know what you need to do for your next season? Okay, here. It's right here. You just take it, you open the book, you read the lines on the page. That's what Geralt would have said. You don't have to guess what Geralt would say in that situation. You know what Geralt would say in that situation? Write whatever it says he would say on the page. That's it. So, anyways, we're going to move on from that because, I'm getting a little rowdy over here. My camera's moving out of focus. We're banging microphones around. But as I said, I'm curious what everyone else's thoughts are. Clearly, I get a little upset when talking about it, but that's just because I really love the games and I really love the books and I love the franchise in general. And I just want to see it done justice. And I'm not saying anything bad against Liam Hemsworth. I'm sure he might even do a fantastic job, and seasons 4 and 5 might not even be so bad if they took some of the criticisms from 1 through 3. So who knows? But like I said, I just want to see them kind of start this fresh and start again with a good actor and have a good plan and just stay faithful to the books. Don't change characters around to the point nobody even recognizes them. Don't flip around the stories to serve whatever modern day, society, political, whatever. Just do what's in the books and things will turn out good. That's it. Anyways, that wraps up our Spotlight story. Now let's jump onto this week's news roundup. First up, the upcoming God of War series and why I think this show will literally be a smash if Amazon nails just this one particular thing, and that's the casting. Seriously, I think this series is going to live or die based on who they choose for Kratos or Atreus. Look at the Fallout series. Amazon knocked it out of the park. The production was solid. The world felt authentic. It was a huge part of the success was that, but it was also that the people connected to the characters. Lucy was so good, right? That was her name, right? Lucy? Jesus, I hope that's right. But she was so well acted and so believable and played that part so well. And me having only played 2 of the Fallout games, I watched that and I was like, wow, this is one of the most faithful from video game to screen adaptations I've ever seen as far as not abusing the source material and using it properly. So that was amazing. So I see 2 ways they could approach the God of War series. And I really think this is true. Option 1, cast someone who looks like Kratos and just let the action speak. Minimal dialogue, lots of grunts and growls. If they could work an action show, like what they used to do, let's say with The Rock. Everyone knew he can't act. We can't give him lots of speaking lines. So what we'll do is we'll just give him a lot of one-liners and a lot of grunts and growls and just have the action do most of the talking. Since this series is supposed to focus on Kratos and Atreus in a way that 2 actors, are going to kind of bounce off of each other and create like emotional threads, and that's kind of going to be the story beat for the series, then I can't see them doing just like an action thing. That won't work. You're going to have to do what I think option 2 is, and that's chemistry casting. You're going to have to pick Kratos and Atreus in a way that 2 actors naturally click. Because if they don't have that natural bond on screen, then people aren't going to believe it, and then the series is not going to feel authentic. You know, I think that's literally what's going to sell the series. The authenticity between the bond of Kratos and his son. The right Kratos matters, sure, but his connection to Atreus is everything, okay? I don't have the perfect picks yet, but I know you guys probably do. I just think that whoever does it needs to have, like I said, a good chemistry with whoever plays his son, because that's what's going to be the selling point of the show. So I'm not sure who it should be. You guys could drop your choices for who should play Kratos and who should play his son in the comments. I'm dying to see what you guys come up with, because anyone I can come up with, like, you know, like a Dave Bautista or Triple H or any of the guys that you've seen casted so far seem decent, but like, I don't know. I almost think it's impossible to do. You could let the guy, Mr. Judd or whatever his name is, that voices Kratos, do it, and he's an amazing actor, but I think he's getting kind of older now. If they plan on doing older Kratos, then maybe that could be fine, but I don't know. I just can't see them casting him. I'm not sure what they're going to do or what they should do, to be honest. I think that that's the hardest part of this and why this hasn't been done before. I think it could be an amazing show, but no matter how good that script is and no matter how good that story is, if they don't get that casting right, it's done. It's done. So I don't know. Who do you guys think can pull off that like epic father-son energy that they're going to have to do? And before we move on, I'd also like to point out Cory Barlog's involvement, because Cory Barlog, the creative director behind the 2018 God of War game, is actively involved in the Amazon series as an executive producer. So showrunner Ronald D. Moore has praised Barlog as genius, highlighting his extensive knowledge of the game's mythology and character arcs. Barlog's deep understanding of the franchise is expected to ensure the series remains faithful to its roots while adapting it for television. If this proves to be true, then we could really be in for something special. Yes, I read the last 2 lines of that off of an article. Okay, anyways, that's it for as far as God of War talk. We're going to move on to our final story for today, and I want to take a look at the new Splinter Cell show. After watching the trailer, I'm convinced there is... I don't even need to be convinced. There is next to zero chance this will be good, which sucks because we haven't seen anything from Splinter Cell franchise beyond the random like cameos in other games in many, many years. But if they made this series well, it could spark some seriously decent marketing and interest for an inevitable new Splinter Cell game and get people talking about the character again and get Sam Fisher back in the spotlight. But instead, I feel this show is going to do nothing besides alienate the fans and give people a lot of shit to dunk on online. If you watch the trailer, which I did, I literally think I rolled my eyes no less than like a dozen times during the trailer. I'm like, why are we making Sam so old and frail? Why does he not seem to be the main focus of the show? Why is he not shooting light bulbs and hiding in shadows? Why is this badass looking partner of his that I wouldn't mind as a villain, but is clearly going to be like Sam's replacement or his like main protege, the focus of the show? I hate that so much because Sam is known for being like not trusting of anybody and having trust issues and very much just being someone who works alone. So once again, it's clear Netflix is doing whatever they want and taking the source material and taking the piss and putting their own necessary spins on it. And at this point, we've waited so long for anything from Sam Fisher, that this is not how I pictured them staging his return. But the show seems more like it's setting up the other characters around Sam and not making him the main focus of the show. I guess we'll have to wait and see, but unfortunately, I'm not optimistic on this one. We'll report back once the show's released and once I've watched it, but let me know your guys' thoughts on the new Splinter Cell TV show if you're looking forward to it. I most certainly am not. I have to watch it as a fan of Splinter Cell, and as someone who talks about video game adaptations, but I'm not happy about this one. I'm really not. And I can tell already from the trailer. I know, don't judge a book by its cover. Piss off. The trailer looks like ass. I don't even really like the animation. I'm not looking forward to this one. But I guess that does it for our news roundup. Let's wrap things up with the wish list. The wish list, if you guys don't already know, is our weekly segment where I highlight one video game that I'd love to see adapted into a movie or a TV show, preferably not by Netflix, so they actually do it, the way the source material is done. And this week, I propose to you Jet Grind Radio or Jet Set Radio, depending on which part of the world you live in. For those of you unaware, Jet Grind Radio is one of the most original, unique games that ever was created. It's in a timeless, classic, cel-shaded art style that would translate directly to like an anime series or whatever, or a CGI series right now, no problem. The game is basically about like rollerblading graffiti gangs that battle for turf and territory by spraying graffiti and having battles that way. It's wacky and it's wild and it's super fun and it's highly stylized, and you could literally just take the animations of the cutscenes or like the in-game play the way it's done now and just translate it directly and it would do well. I don't think this one would work as a live action adaptation. In fact, it absolutely most certainly wouldn't. But I think if you kept it simple and put the right team behind it and stayed true to the material, then you could have one of the most original, best, unique, fun and funky things ever adapted from a video game to TV screen. And regardless of that, just one of the coolest shows that we've ever seen as far as like innovation and something fresh and just, you know, something new. If you guys know Jet Grind Radio or Jet Set Radio, then I know you're going to be in this with me and you're going to be like, right on, yep, that's a great pick. If you don't know Jet Grind Radio or Jet Set Radio, then you should spend the rest of your day figuring out a way to go play that because it's amazing. And there's reboots coming, so that's cool too. All right, that's my wish list pick for the week. Drop yours because I love hearing your guys. I had a couple cool ones last time that I've talked to some friends about that was like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool one that I would have never thought of. So what do you guys think of a couple movies or a couple video games that would make good movies? I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. And I think that's all for this week's episode of Screen Watch. Don't forget to check out our other series, which is actually doing well, Untold Secrets, where I take deep dives into video game movies from the past. And of course, stay tuned to next week's episode of Screen Watch as well. There's a Discord you guys can come hang out in. And if you want to talk about all the stuff in the world of video games, movies, and all that stuff, video game adaptations, I'm always there yapping and chatting. So remember, as long as it started as a video game, I don't care if it was adapted to a movie, an anime, a TV show, whatever it is, we'll talk about it here on Screen Watch. Leave the video some love with a comment and a like. I would really appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of me. I've been your host, Patty Pixel. You've been you. I appreciate you. Thanks for sticking around. I'm out.